Hi, I'm Felicia.
And I'm Giancarlo, and we're live right now, but by the time you see this, we won't be.
And this is our review of...
The Undercity, which is not holding up the box, like not showing anybody over there, like what's going on.
An Iron Kingdoms adventure board game.
That's right.
Okay, the company is Iron Kingdoms.
No, the company is Privateer Press. Iron Kingdom is the world that it takes place in.
So there's like, it's a series.
Kind of. Yeah, they have a miniature game. They have an RPG, and now they came out with a...
What is an
co-op,
RPG?
A role-playing game.
Oh.
You just lost like half the geeks over there are like upset that you don't know.
They love me. It's a hula hoop. There's nothing scary about that. Like if I saw a freaking dude walking around with this pink hula hoop, I'd be like...
Man, you know, he took out Bane. He took out Bane, Felicia.
Bane is still breathing.
He's just a little, but he's like, you know.
He's just a little like choked up.
Players will work together in this dungeon crawl, which is set in the world of the Iron Kingdoms. Hired by the City Watch, a conspiracy unveils as the heroes progress through the 7 scenarios in the forgotten catacombs under the great city of Corvus. The board will be set up with tiles matching the scenarios found in the campaign book. For this review, we'll use the first one. Each player will choose a hero along with its ability deck and feat deck, from which she'll draw 3 face-up. All players will also start with wound tokens on the red side up according to their vitality and a full alchemical potion. Doorstop will have wreck tokens instead. Place the XP tokens near the treasury tile. The event, villain actions, and side quest deck will also be arranged according to the scenario. The villain's cards and reserve will be formed with their index tokens and the other minis on the map as stated. Set your hero's mini on the starting space, get your dice, and you're ready to play.
At the beginning of each round, the top card of the event deck is flipped over, covering the previous one unless it was an environment card. These could only be replaced by another environment card. The event deck also acts as a timer. If the heroes don't complete their objective when an event card must be drawn, they lose. Once that's done, we move on to the player turns. The character with the highest initiative will act first, and move on to the second highest, and so on. The player turn consists of 3 phases in this order: spawning phase, activation phase, and villain phase.
A player will spawn a villain by rolling a black and white die. One will designate which villain is spawned using the index token, and the other will determine his spawn point on the map. The villain that must be taken must be from the more plentiful color in the reserve. Should there be a tie, the color of the event will determine priority. We then move on to activation phase. Here a character can, in any order, do a movement and an action. One will be considered complete if moving on to the next, so you cannot interrupt a move to attack and then move, or vice versa. For movement, there are 3 possibilities: hold, walk, or charge. Hold means to stay in place. This is useful for ranged weapon attacks since it'll be considered as a player aiming, which will have her attack roll boosted. Boosted is the term used to have an additional die added to standard rolls, usually 2d6. Walk will make a character move 1 space. A character can move diagonally on a connecting square unless there's a corner from her starting space to her resting space. Charge will allow a character to move up to 2 spaces. However, doing so means the character cannot perform any range attacks and cannot have attacked the figure that was in her starting space. But she can attack a figure on the space she lands on should she wish to. Not only that, but she will benefit from a boosted damage roll to her first melee weapon attack should that attack hit. Another thing to remember when moving is if you leave a space with a villain inside, you'll have to do a hazard check. Roll a die, and on a 5 or 6, you sustain a wound.
As an action, a player can attack, revive, or attempt a stat challenge. For the last one, it's simple. If you need to attempt a challenge, roll 2d6 and add that character's attribute required for the test, usually either strength, intelligence, or perception. If the total is equal or higher than that target number, you succeed. Revive a character requires you to use your alchemical potion by flipping to revive all wound tokens to their red side up for an incapacitated ally. Attacking is what you'll be doing the most of. Your character can make use of either all her melee weapons or all her ranged weapons. This icon will tell you which is which. Melee weapons usually have a range of 0, which means you need to be in the same space as your target. Range weapons will have a maximum range listed. Roll 2d6 plus any modifiers you might have and add the weapon's accuracy bonus. If the total equals or exceeds the target's defense, you hit and we move on to the damage step. Again, roll 2d6 plus any modifiers such as boost or additional dice and add the weapon's POW value. If you go over the target's armor value, you wounded him. If you went over by 1, 2, 3, or 4, the target takes a wound. If you went over by 5 or more, the target takes 2 wounds. Minions will die usually after the first wound, but bosses have higher vitality, so simply turn over any wound tokens they have to be depleted side. Every time you inflict a wound, you gain 1 XP token. Take it and place it in the treasury tile. Dead minions return to their reserve. At the end of the activation phase, the player will draw a feat card. You can only ever have 3 at a time, so be sure to use at least 1 during your turn. Simply choose one of the 2 effects and use when stated.
In the last phase of the player turn, the villains will have a chance to retaliate on the heroes. Flip over the villain action card and apply what it states. If multiple eligible villains fit the description, the color priority on the event card will break this tie. A villain will always attack the closest hero. If 2 heroes are tied for closest, the tiebreaker will be listed at the bottom of the villain action card. The tactics used for the attack, if any, will be listed on the villain card on the bottom. First, see if the leftmost criteria can be fulfilled. If not, move on to the next, and so forth. These tactics range from melee attack, charge, range attack, set shot, pursue, or regroup. You'll find these conveniently listed on the villain aid sheet. Should you flip over your last health token, you become incapacitated and place your figure lying down on her current space. During the spawning phase on her turn, return 2 wound tokens to the box, and then she can be placed to an adjacent connecting space. If she loses her last health token, she has passed out and is removed from the game. Usually incapacitated or passed out heroes make for a loss in the scenario conditions. When done, play passes to the next player. Meet all the victory conditions before the event deck runs out and you'll win that chapter.
When the heroes succeed a chapter, certain things happen. First, all characters regain any lost wound tokens from the box dark side up. Then they all heal up to 3 wounds. Alchemical bottle will get refilled from their hero by rolling a 5 or 6. Side quests or items can be traded between heroes. And lastly, each hero has XPs divided equally between them. Each player can upgrade their character by buying new abilities for their tougher chapters ahead. Spend the appropriate amount of XPs as listed on the card. You're now ready for the next chapter and uncover the conspiracy that plagues the Undercity.
As you can see with the Undercity, Privateer Press continues to produce great quality miniatures and beautifully illustrated artwork to add to their world Iron Kingdoms. They already have a miniature skirmish game and RPG system for it, and the Undercity now provides the co-op dungeon crawl aspect for their world. So the theme and story of the steam-powered warjacks and warcasters will appeal to old fans while making newcomers enter the strange new world with ease. An Undercity works fine as a dungeon crawl, but it does so in a classic sense. What I mean by that is that to us it felt a little passé. Whereas other dungeon crawls include new mechanics and results on whether you failed or succeeded a chapter, Undercity will have you simply lose the game if you lose the chapter and force you to replay it until you succeed to move on to the next. And that wouldn't be so bad if each chapter didn't require at least 2.5 hours each to complete. And with those 2.5 hours each, the downtime between players, like most co-ops, can be long. Another problem with the chapter is the unique rules that come with them. Sure, this provides unique scenarios, but it also adds some not so easy to remember rules that sometimes feel convoluted. These become more apparent the higher the chapter numbers are. I mean, the base rules are pretty straightforward, but there are many different things to remember within each chapter and characters while trying to best come up with tactics for your own character is somewhat bothersome. One thing we did like very much was the removal of line of sight and the way the enemy would activate based on color and priority. And that to us really felt like the only innovative mechanic to an otherwise very, very ordinary Dungeon crawl is a dungeon crawl is a dungeon crawl. The Undercity gets a lukewarm 6 out of 10.